James Trim here. Today I want to talk to you about the Hebrew and Aramaic origin of the books known as the New Testament. But before we get going, I need to ask everybody to please donate to support this work. I need your help today more than ever. Today I need to go pick up $750 worth of prescriptions for my wife. For those of you that don't know, my wife is chronically ill. She's disabled and she suffers from chronic pain. I've got to pick up $750 worth of prescriptions for her. This is after our insurance. It's what it costs. Two of these are pain medications for her. One of them is over $400 and another one is around $250. So we definitely need your help if you can possibly donate today. She's also going to undergo a procedure next week, and we don't even know what the copay for that is yet. But if you can possibly donate, we definitely need your help today. You can donate by sending donations by PayPal to donations@wnae.org. That's donations@wnae.org, or by clicking on the donate link in the video description. From that link, you can donate by PayPal, Zelle, or GoFundMe. Okay, as I said today, I want to talk about the Hebrew and Aramaic. Oh, before I get going, I also want to ask everybody to please like this video, subscribe to this channel. Click the notification bell so you'll get notified when new videos come out. Let us know what you think in the comments and participate in the discussions in the comments section. All of these things are things that YouTube looks at to decide which videos to recommend to new viewers. Also, please share this video on social media, in email, with your friends. There's not enough of that going on. So that's one way you can definitely help us get the word out and get these videos exposed to more people. Okay, before I get going too far here, I want to say that when we get into the question of the origin of the Hebrew, the New Testament being Hebrew or Aramaic, for some people there tends to be a big fight about Hebrew or Aramaic. And I want to say that that's really not where we should be, that kind of a fight. It definitely wasn't written in Greek, is the point. And Hebrew and Aramaic are very similar languages. They're written, they can be written with the same script. They have the same 22 letters. They share a lot of the same vocabulary with a little bit different pronunciation, and they share much of the same grammar. So a lot of arguments that can be used that the New Testament was originally internal arguments, that the New Testament was originally written in Hebrew, also work for Aramaic, and vice versa. So when we look at the Greek text and we see a Semitic text and Semitisms in it, those could be either Hebrew or Aramaic most of the time. Sometimes they may be unique to one or the other. And they're both Jewish languages. Hebrew is, of course, the language of the Tanakh, many of the Midrashim, the Mishnah. However, part of the Tanakh, small parts of the Tanakh, are actually written in Aramaic, particularly a large portion of the book of Daniel. And the languages are so similar that the book of Daniel starts out in Hebrew and then starts being in Aramaic, and then it ends in Hebrew. So within a single book, the language shifts from Hebrew to Aramaic and back to Hebrew again. Also, Aramaic is the language of the Targums, the Talmuds, and the Zohar. So definitely a very Jewish language in either case. I believe that for at least large portions of the books of the New Testament, the original language was Hebrew. There may have been I think there very likely was an Aramaic stage in between. In other words, it was translated from Hebrew and then to Aramaic, and that Aramaic served as the basis for the Greek New Testament, particularly the Western text type, and we'll get into that in a moment. So let's talk about the oldest manuscript versions of the books of the New Testament. The oldest manuscript versions are called let me back up. Let's start talking first about the three different major Greek text types. This is a big clue to the origin of the books of the New Testament, the linguistic origin. The text type of a book is kind of like its DNA. So no two Greek manuscripts of the New Testament agree exactly. So here, for example, is a copy of the Nestle Aland text, Greek New Testament. And if I open it up, you'll see that there's a whole lot of footnotes down at the bottom. And the reason for all those footnotes is that no two manuscripts agree, so there are variant readings down in those footnotes saying manuscript A reads this way, manuscript B reads that other way, and manuscript D reads another way, and there are literally thousands of manuscripts. Okay, so there are all these different variant readings and all these variant Greek manuscripts. They break down into three basic text types. The first text type, and I'm not going to give these in a particular order. The first text type is called the Alexandrian text type. Then there's the Byzantine text type, and then there's the Western text type. Okay, so the two oldest text types of the ancient manuscripts and papyri fragments, those are all either the Alexandrian text type or the Western text type. All of the later manuscripts tend to be of what's called the Byzantine text type. So there are a number of qualities and characteristics of the different text types, but one of the very important text type that I want to talk about is the Western text type. Now, in those that believe in a Greek origin for the New Testament, there is a conflict between those that believe in the Alexandrian text type is the most original text. And they do that because the oldest manuscripts are either Alexandrian or Western, and they center on Alexandrian. And the oldest manuscripts are Alexandrian. And there's the other group that believe in the majority text, they call it, that they weigh their originality not on the oldest manuscripts, but on the largest number of manuscripts. And since the largest number are late manuscripts, those aren't the oldest. And that largest number of manuscripts fit into what we call the Byzantine text type. Okay. Then the other ancient oldest text type is the Western text type. So one of the interesting qualities about the Western text type is that the Western text type, in fact, it used to be called the Syro-Latin text type. And it was called the Syro-Latin text type because it was the text type that fits with the same category as the Old Latin and Old Syriac versions. So the oldest other language versions besides Greek of the New Testament are Syriac, which is a dialect of Aramaic, and Latin. And so scholars maintain that the oldest version of the Syriac is the Old Syriac. The oldest version of the Latin before the Latin Vulgate is the Old Latin. And these Old Latin manuscripts and these Old Syriac manuscripts tend to have great agreement, and they tend to have great agreement with the Greek text type known as the Western text type, and the Gospels typified by Codex D. Okay. So it's very interesting that the oldest two non-Greek versions of the New Testament that are extant are of the Western text type. That kind of starts to tell you something right there. Okay. So another important factor is that the Western text type, one of its unique characteristics is Semitic grammar, and whole books have been written about this. Semitisms of the Book of Acts by Max Wilcox. A guy named Frederick Henry Chase wrote a lot about this. And it's an observation that was also made by Charles Cutler Torrey. It's a well-known in textual criticism fact that the Western text type of the Greek has much more Semitic grammar. That means Hebrewisms or Aramaicisms, Semitisms in the Greek text. All right. It is my position, and I think that the evidence plays it out, that this Western text type is actually, rather than the Alexandrian text type, the oldest text version, the oldest text type, okay, the Western text type, because of these Semitisms. Then I believe that in Alexandria, Egypt particularly, but this spread to other Greek-speaking parts of the world, the clumsy, offensive to the ear, to the Greek ear, Western type Greek that was written in really good Hebrew and Aramaic grammar, but terrible Greek grammar, got revised into a nice, pleasing to the ear Greek grammar version called the Alexandrian version. By the way, there's still plenty of Semitic grammar and Semitisms left in that Alexandrian version, but not near as much as in the Western text type. So you go from the Western text type then to this Greek, nice, updated, flowing Greek text called the Alexandrian text type. Then, in the fullness of time, scribes in the next several centuries find themselves with two different readings, and they start cross-pollinating and implementing some of the Western readings back into the Alexandrian type text, and over a period of time you end up with this thing called the Byzantine text type. Okay, by the 4th century you definitely have this Byzantine text type, and the Peshitta Aramaic version resulted from standardization of the Aramaic and taking the Old Latin and upgrading it to greater, I won't say upgrading it, but revising it towards greater agreement with the Byzantine text type that their Greek counterparts were using at the time. Because by this time, the Byzantine Greek was what the Greek speakers were using. Now we have the Old Syriac for the Gospels only. The post-Gospels portion of the Old Syriac has not survived directly. We do have some hints to it because the oldest Syriac writers quoted the Old Syriac rather than the Peshitta frequently. And so we do have their quotations, and we can also see it as the underlying text behind the Greek Western text type. One of the interesting characteristics of the Old Syriac is is the frequent occurrence of unique so-called Palestinian, which then was a geographical term, not related to any current world issues. The Palestinian Aramaic and the Jewish style Aramaic and the Western Aramaic, all these kind of similar, the Judean Aramaic, that was not good Syriac. There are several examples in the Old Syriac of readings that are offensive to Syriac, the Syriac dialect, and instead follow the proper grammar and or vocabulary of the Jewish and or Palestinian and or Judean Western Aramaic. So that's also a huge clue that the Old Syriac has behind it the original Jewish Aramaic. And these examples are unique from the later Peshitta Syriac, which was revised to greater agreement with the Greek, and particularly the Byzantine type Greek. Now, another huge clue for us is that there is a Hebrew manuscript of Matthew called the DuTillet Hebrew version of Matthew. I did a whole video, actually I did a series of videos about that particular version. I also did a previous video about the Old Syriac Aramaic in the past. And one of the interesting things about the DuTillet Hebrew version of Matthew, and it's not alone, there are other representatives of the same type Hebrew text as the DuTillet Hebrew version. The DuTillet Hebrew version of Matthew was found in 1553, was published in 1553, and it appears to have been confiscated from Jews in Rome at the time that the Talmud was banned in Rome. So we have that manuscript. It's manuscript number 132, Hebrew manuscript 132, at the Bibliothèque Nationale Library in Paris, France. It was first published by a bishop named Bishop Jean DuTillet. Okay, so it's the DuTillet version. There is another text called the Münster Hebrew text that was published by Sebastian Münster in 1537, which he said he obtained from among the Jews. It's very, very similar to the DuTillet Hebrew version, and it is of the same, it's a representative of the same text with some variants. Okay, there are a couple of other witnesses to this text, but these are the two oldest. Like I said, there are a couple of others, and they date to the 1500s. Okay, so they're not extremely ancient, are representatives of them that we have, but one really interesting thing about them is that they have unique agreements, several unique agreements with the Old Syriac Aramaic text. That's important because that Old Syriac Aramaic text came to be supplanted by the Peshitta text around the 4th century and to have virtually disappeared. And in fact, we didn't have any copies of any of it until the 19th century when we discovered two manuscripts of the four Gospels in the Old Syriac version. So, Jews living in Europe in the Middle Ages could not have had access to the Old Syriac. Yet, the DuTillet version of Matthew has many agreements, very unique agreements with the Old Syriac. In a couple of places, they even have the same grammatical error. Okay, that is how closely they agree at times. So they have these several unique agreements against all other versions. This points to the fact that the DuTillet Münster type Hebrew text, which we might style the Old Hebrew, must be the Hebrew directly related to the original Hebrew that was behind the Old Syriac and the Greek Western text type, and even the Old Latin. Okay, so we have a huge amount of information that allows us to start to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And this is a project I have spent a lifetime on, and I hope to get a lot of work done on this project of restoring the original Hebrew and Aramaic of the New Testament. But I need your help to do it. It takes time and meticulous effort. And I've been working on it doing the background work on it for decades. But the time has come for me to put all the pieces together. Unfortunately, it's very meticulous and time consuming. And unfortunately, time is money. So I'm asking you to please support me financially in that effort. And at the same time, for those that don't know, I'm caretaker for my wife, who is chronically ill and disabled and suffering from chronic pain. So you would be helping us out in both regards. And we really need your help to get this work done and put all of these pieces. I've gathered these manuscripts together. I have the background work done on it, and examined the Greek and understand and know the Hebrew and Aramaic grammar, vocabulary, etc. behind the Greek. I have the manuscripts to compare with this. Well, not the actual manuscripts, photographs of them, because somebody one time decided to be a wise guy and say I was saying I had manuscripts when I actually had facsimiles of manuscripts. So I have facsimiles of the manuscripts. So please donate to help support us in that work. You can donate by donating by PayPal to donations at wnae.org, or by clicking on the donate link in the video description. And there you can donate by PayPal, Zelle, or GoFundMe. All right, I just will conclude there, and there's plenty more to talk about in the future. Until next time, everybody, shalom.